Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the brand new rules for AI. Everyone's talking about it, but how do you actually control it? We're going to break down the three big approaches out there: the rulebook, the lawbook, and the playbook, so you can figure out how to use this amazing tech without things going off the rails.
Okay, so this is the question, right? How do you control an AI? This isn't just some abstract tech problem anymore. It is on the mind of every single business leader out there. I mean, AI is becoming a part of everything. Managing risk, handling customer data, so figuring out how to keep it in check, that's not a nice to have. It's absolutely critical.
Look, the real challenge here isn't just about, plugging in some new tool. It's all about trust. How can you be sure the AI is actually being fair, or that it's secure? And what about its decisions? Do they line up with what your company stands for? And, just as important, do they line up with the law? This is exactly what we mean when we talk about governance.
All right, let's get into it. To make this all make sense, we're going to look at three main approaches. Think of it like this. You've got a rule book for inside your company, a law book that you have to follow, and a playbook that gives you all the best moves.
So, first up, the rulebook. This is basically your company's own internal guide. It's the set of instructions you write for yourself, laying out exactly what the processes are, who's in charge of what, just making sure everyone is on the same page when it comes to using AI the right way.
And the best example of a rulebook? That's the new ISO 42001 standard. Now, this is a big deal. It's a voluntary standard, so you don't have to do it, but it gives you this amazing, structured checklist for building a solid AI management system. And here's the kicker. It's certifiable. That means you can actually get a stamp of approval, which is a huge way to show your customers, your partners, and regulators that you're taking responsible AI seriously.
Okay, next up is the one you absolutely cannot ignore: the lawbook. Yeah, this isn't about suggestions or best practices anymore. This is about legal requirements, with some pretty serious consequences if you get it wrong.
We're talking, of course, about the EU AI Act. This thing is a total game changer. It's a binding law for any AI that operates in the European Union. What it does is it looks at an AI system and classifies it based on its risk level. And if your system is labeled high risk, we're talking about things used in hiring, medical devices, or critical infrastructure, then bam, you've got a whole set of strict mandatory rules you have to follow. No excuses.
And last but not least, we have the playbook. Now, think of this less like a strict set of rules and more like, well, a coach's manual. It's a flexible guide designed to help you build trustworthy AI right from the very beginning.
The perfect example of this is the AI Risk Management Framework from NIST over in the US. Again, it's totally voluntary, but what it does is it gives you a blueprint. It helps you ask all the right questions, so you can build a real culture of responsibility around AI. It's super flexible and designed to help you spot and manage risks before they blow up into major problems.
Okay, so we've got our three players: the certifiable rulebook, the mandatory lawbook, and the flexible playbook. So how do they really stack up against each other when you put them in a real business situation?
All right, the biggest, most fundamental difference is right here. It's voluntary versus mandatory. The rulebook, that's ISO 42001, and the playbook, the NIST framework, those are things you choose to do. You adopt them because you want to improve your systems and build trust. But the lawbook, the EU AI Act, that's not a choice. It's mandatory. You have to comply, period.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, because this chart really shows you the different mindsets. Look at the primary goal. With the ISO rulebook, you're building a whole management system. With the EU lawbook, it's simple, legal compliance. And with the NIST playbook, it's all about proactively building trust. Now see how that cascades down to what the board cares about? With the rulebook, it's ethical leadership. With the playbook, it's their fiduciary responsibility. But with the lawbook, it's all about one thing: avoiding those massive, massive fines. You can see how each of these forces a totally different conversation at every single level of the company.
And speaking of fines, this number says it all: 7%. That is the maximum fine a company can face under the EU AI Act. We're not talking 7% of profits, folks. We're talking 7% of your global annual turnover. Yeah, suddenly AI compliance isn't just an IT issue, is it? It's a top-level C-suite priority.
So how does this all actually work in the real world? Because here's the secret. These frameworks aren't meant to compete with each other. They're meant to work together. Let's walk through a quick example, say an insurance company, to see how they all layer on top of each other. All right, picture this. An insurance company starts using an AI to automatically process claims. Instantly, the Lawbook, the EU AI Act, kicks in. It flags this system as high risk, which means they must have a human overseeing it. Okay, step 1. Next, they bring in their Rulebook, the ISO 42001 standard. They use it to build out all the internal processes to make sure that AI isn't biased. And finally, they pull out the playbook, the NIST framework. That guides their tech teams on how to actually test the AI to make sure it's fair and reliable. See? They're not fighting each other. They're just different layers of a really smart, complete governance strategy.
So, let's bring this all home. After all that, what's the bottom line for any leader watching this? What's the one thing you really need to take away?
Here it is. The big takeaway is that all this governance stuff, it's not about putting the brakes on innovation. Not at all. It's the exact opposite. It's what makes real, sustainable innovation possible. By having a clear framework, you're creating the safe space you need to unlock all the amazing things AI can do, all while staying in control and keeping the trust of your customers and regulators.
And that really leaves us with one final, crucial question for you. Because in the world we live in now, it's not a question of if you need to govern your AI. The only question that's left on the table is, how are you going to get it done?